A woman named Lisa posted something on Threads today that blew my whole entire mind and shifted my reality on its axis. And that is because she is who I am talking to here on this channel, in my life's work. She is who I was and am no longer, asking this question. I wonder who I'd be if I could ever get out of survival mode. And I just was blown away because I think it's my whole entire body of work answered in that question, or trying to answer that question. Who could you be? Okay, one of my kiddos got dropped off earlier than expected, so I brought some roses. May the logic. What I'm trying to do here in this 44 Ways I Built a Life That Doesn't Break Me series is tell you how I mostly got out of survival mode. I realized that is absolutely why I left the US. I was trying to get out of survival mode. And I don't know that I could have named that at the time. I'm pretty sure I couldn't have. Ultimately, I felt like I was drowning. I could articulate that when I left America, I felt like I was coming up for air. And so if you think about what survival mode means, it means something akin to I'm drowning, which is how I felt underwater. So what I did in leaving America was change the things that I could. I changed the things that I could. So I am not here to blow smoke up your booty and tell you that anything that you dream can be achieved. Maybe it can be achieved. Maybe you will get cancer like my friend did and have to live near the cancer center. We don't know what is coming for us, okay? And I don't say that to be alarmist or scary. I say that to be a realist. I am very real. And what is real is there may always be parts of my life that feel like survival mode. So I chose to get out of survival mode in the ways that I could, by leaving America, by having a remote job so that I don't have to leave my house when that really exhausts me all the time. Sometimes you need a larger change in your environment. And if you are someone who feels like you're drowning in America and you're wondering if it might be possible to leave, I have a resource that will help you. So if you are serious about changing something in your life and you have considered moving abroad, check out the resource in my description. That will give you what you need to know if it's even a possibility for you. Now, I absolutely have a lot of moments where I still feel in survival mode. I am not honestly sure if somebody can have a family put together the way that mine is, with 5 kids and lots of high needs, 2 of them going to be dependent on us forever. There's just a lot of dynamics where the things in my family feel really high stakes. And so I definitely still have moments that feel like survival mode, and those have a lot to do with how my family has been put together. But I am actively trying to become less familiar with the feeling of survival mode and less too likely for my nervous system to say, oh, that feels familiar. I'll go toward that. I don't know if you've ever heard that concept before, just that if your nervous system is familiar with something, the unfamiliar, even if it's better for you, feels uncomfortable for your nervous system. Think of an abusive relationship. Maybe you were in a really long time abusive relationship. Those behaviors became your norms, that kind of chaos, that kind of like enmeshed codependence where you're always trying to manage the other person to prevent them from exploding, etc. If your nervous system gets attuned to that, it feels normal, right? Our nervous system, our brain, our bodies are really smart and they get used to things. They get used to constant vigilance. They get used to always having a stress level that's really high. They get used to high cortisol, the stress hormone in your body. And then when that goes away, it can feel wrong. It can feel like not normal or good. And so I mention all that because I have been attuned in my nervous system in the past to high control environments where I was being coerced all the time. Just the chaos that I signed myself up for when I decided to have 5 kids, a couple by birth and several by adoption. I signed myself up for that. Now, the reason that I did that had a lot to do with that high control environment because, like, having a bunch of kids and adopting and all of those things were really praised and lifted up as like this is the model of what you should be doing. And so that definitely influenced me. I often think back to teenage me, and I didn't want kids. So I love my kids. I feel honored to be their mom. I feel humbled to be the one who's trying to figure out how to take care of them and help them thrive in the world. But I'm in way over my head, to be honest. I don't know when that will change. My dog wants to be the star of my YouTube channel, okay? She's a real spotlight hog. I think it's just because she always likes to be around me. I am her emotional support human. I'm also the emotional support human for many other people who live in my house of 7 people. I say that we have a house of 7 people. One of them lives in the US now, but I am still her emotional support human. So back to changing your environment. Some ways that we have changed our environment. Sometimes we brought plants into our environment. Let's talk really small, right? What are some ways that you can change your environment and bring more beauty and joy into your life? I was just reading Shannon Martin's wonderful book, Counterweights, and she changes her mugs every season. And she has this contraption on her wall that she hangs the mugs on. And I just loved that because that is just one little way that you can change your environment. So, I mean, people in America are very familiar with this as far as like redecorating, remodeling. There's a lot of things that you can do in your home to change your environment. This isn't like a really wild idea, right? I am no stranger to changing my environment so that I feel better. And you might need to do that. If you need to change your environment to feel better, then absolutely you have the agency to do that. And I know that you don't have all the choices in the world, but you do have some choices. So, other ways that we changed our environment, we moved several times. It's funny because I'm not really, I think, set up to be a homeowner because every several years I did want to move because I was getting to know myself better. And once I was learning to know myself better, I knew, oh, well, I actually want a different part of the city, or I want a home that can provide this for my family and these kind of layouts and whatever. We moved several times while we were still living in Minnesota. We moved out of a really intense neighborhood. You go outside and there's not a lot of pretty things, there's not a lot of green space. And so I would say I started picking things for myself and for our family that felt less like survival mode, even by just moving to a different environment. We lived in Minnesota for the first 15 years of our marriage. And then we launched abroad. But something that we did also to change our environment, to get a change of scenery, was we began really pondering what makes us tick? What do we actually care about? Are we doing the things with our life that we want to be doing? Because life is short. It was mortality motivation, if you've ever heard that phrase. I just heard my coach, Glow Atonmo, say that the other day. And the next dog wants to be part of the party. Just a moment. Working. He's working. One of my kids every single day is like, where's dad? And dad is like almost always in the office. Developmental delays are a funny thing to parent sometimes. Anyways, changing your scenery. For us, that started with just asking what we really liked. Instead of just being carried along by this bigger, nicer neighborhood, more stuff. That's the consumerism type of river in America, right? You can easily be carried along. I used to call it the crazy train. Like we were just on the crazy train, just always more, more, more. And when we began examining, which takes some intentionality, we began examining what really mattered to us. And what woke us up was we had friends who were getting diagnosed with cancer. We had other friends who had some really tragic circumstances in their lives. Other friends lost children. And it just made us think, like, what are we doing with our good fortune here? What are we doing with what's available to us? Like, we have our health, we have money, we have finances, we have the chance to shift around our finances and use them differently. So we downsized and we began traveling internationally with our family of 7. So you have some choices. You have some options available to you. You don't have all the options, neither do I, but you have probably more options than you've considered. And that's what I want to be reminding you of on a regular basis here. You have agency over some things. And I know that if you're like me, you are exhausted by what's going on in America. You're exhausted by this stage of life where you're trying to take care of, maybe you have children and aging parents, and you're just feeling like pulled, right? But all of that is all the more reason to figure out, how can I get myself in one little area? How can I get myself out of survival mode? What would help my life feel less like survival mode? And, for me, eventually it was this huge escape hatch and I left. America. But before that came a lot of small decisions where I began to take seriously my own humanity and my own needs, and I began to inch closer to what felt like it could meet my needs and inch closer to a life that felt like it supported me more rather than just trying to carry the weight of the world as a mom, as a woman, as a person with ADHD, who we really have no business trying to carry the weight of the world. Like, we have a lot going on in our brains and in our bodies, and we have learned to ignore those needs. And so I want to ask you, what would it look like if you stopped abandoning your own needs and desires? Could it look like a life that feels like less survival mode? Some of the ways that my life living in Portugal feels less like survival mode for me as a woman with ADHD is medical care is more affordable here. It was not hard to get my psychiatrist to have a conversation with me about having ADHD meds, to try them to see if they worked. They do. They help me feel much better. It's not hard for me to get birth control, which is what I use because HRT is not as easy to get here. I use birth control to regulate my estrogen and my progestin. I don't really know what progesterone or progestin actually does. So I am clearly no medical professional. I do know, because of my nerdy research, what estrogen helps out with, at least some of the things, and holy buckets. I understand now why when your estrogen dips, you feel like you're losing your mind. So Portugal specifically, but Europe at large. I lived in far Eastern Europe in the Republic of Georgia, and now I live here by the beach in Portugal we're coming up on 4 years soon. Those places have given me margin and capacity. And part of it is because both my husband and I work remotely. So we get to be home, and we're like home with our kids, and we're not commuting. And my husband is very involved with the things that he couldn't be involved with in America because he was gone for 10 hours a day from our home, including commute and working in corporates. So I have more support because my husband also works remotely, and that is amazing. Like, we're carrying the load together. Things in Portugal culturally, there's not as much of a rush. I don't find myself in a panic about being late or, having to do things super efficiently, except when I'm in the Aldi checkout line loading my bag. They're very fast at the Aldi checkout line. But I feel like that's in America too. It's like, pa, 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 pa. That's the only time really here in Portugal that I feel like panicked and rushing, unless I'm trying to catch a bus. Those are things that have made my daily life just more slow and less rushed. And my ADHD heart really loves that. I really don't like rushing. Oh, being a person who works on US hours while you live in Europe means, I'm in Western Europe, so we're 5 hours ahead of East Coast. So that means my mornings are a time where nobody's working in the US, or at least not my clients and not the people that I work with. It's the same for my husband. So we have these mornings where we can take it more slowly. We have to get kids off to school and things like that. But But as far as just space and capacity for ourselves, having our work schedule shifted later, it's it's a little rough in the evening because you're working later into the evening. But as far as just the flow of what my body likes to do anyway, I love being able to sleep in a little bit. My husband gets the kids up in the morning. I do evening parenting. He does morning parenting. So when he was gone for a couple of months, I was doing both and I was very, very tired. As a normal rule, that's how we've divided things up. And so I'm able to sleep in the mornings and just work with my natural schedule more. I'm a late riser and a stay up later. Being able to choose to live near the ocean and have that be accessible for us financially. I mean, we live in a townhouse instead of a what do they call that? Single family with a yard and stuff. And we have a smaller space, but it's near the beach. And so the access to nature has been really life-giving for me and for all of us. I think it's been very regulating. Just having a less busy, less hustle culture kind of life here is really, really appreciated. It makes me feel capable of, let's bring it back to the original question, being the person, seeing who I could be when I'm not in survival mode. So living here, living out of the US, has opened up a whole world to me about who I have the possibility to become. I have the capacity to be creative and to paint again. My paintings are on the wall. I have the capacity to work on my business and try and grow a business. I pivoted from one business, being a virtual assistant, to what I'm doing now, which is being a move abroad mentor, but also trying to give you resources so that you can consider how life could feel better to you as a woman, as a mom, if you're a mom, as a person with ADHD. I have the capacity for all of those things. I am growing into my potential because I'm not maxed out all the time anymore. And so to answer the question, I wonder who I could be. You could be more yourself. You could be somebody who feels happy to be alive, who feels alive in your own life. You could be a person who, even though you live in a different country, still does a good job of showing up for your friends and supporting them through the hard things in their life. I have so much more emotional capacity than I ever had before. As a mom, I have more emotional capacity. I'm able to take things in stride that I don't think I would have been able to take in stride when we were living in the US because I was at capacity. I was past capacity. I was maxed out. I was burning out. The possibilities are not completely endless. Realism. But the possibilities are so great. There are many, many more possibilities than you can even imagine if you begin to make the small choices that you can to move yourself out of survival mode. And again, it's never going to be perfect. Maybe you're like me and there are just parts of your life that are always going to feel a little bit like a dumpster fire. If you want to hear about my mothering career, you can look at this video. I have dealt with more than any person should have dealt with as a mother. And I'm sure that there are people who have dealt with much more. And I am parenting all my children. I haven't lost any children. That's more than any mother should have to deal with. So I'm not saying I have had the hardest mothering career ever, but I am saying I have carried a lot, and it is sometimes devastating and puts me in total freeze mode because of the weight of the things that have come up in my mothering career. And so, all the more, that is why I needed that pressure release valve. That's why I needed to get myself out of America. Get me out of here is my brand about departing America. Get me out of here. I know that you're carrying a lot, and I also know that there's probably some ways, some changes that you could make. And if you're ready to make those, please stick around, please subscribe. I hope that this channel will inspire you to dare to truly live and to find beauty wherever you can find it, to help buoy your spirit, to help you keep on keeping on, and being able to make choices to make life feel just that little bit better as you go, to get you a little bit more out of survival mode. So thank you for being here with me. I'm Andy, and I'll see you tomorrow.